welcome to Alt With Lella. I am your lovely host, Layla, a poet, an Afro-feminist, life coach, and an artist. Really, what I am is a magician. And Alt With Lella is a lifestyle podcast that offers you alternative ways of feeling, thinking, and living outside of societal conditioning from an Afro-feminist perspective. Alt With Lella mainly serves as a prompt to the listener to rethink and reflect on what we accept as norm, culture, and heritage. Make sure to click the subscribe button to get notified about new episodes. You can also find Alt With Lella on Instagram and TikTok as Alt With Lella. And if you're interested, you can find my personal accounts at A Lifetime With Layla on both of these platforms. While you're at it, you can check out my website at lifetimewithlayla.com to access the services I provide. Thank you and enjoy. Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of Alt With Lella. I am super happy to be here, and I'm super happy that you are here giving me your time and your ears. As you can tell by the title, it goes, Who Am I? And this is the last episode of this season, of the first season of Alt With Lella. And I just wanted to, because the theme of the season was just giving you my background, my upbringing, or like why I am the way I am today. So I just figured the final episode should be, Who am I? You know what I mean? And I really hope that Who Am I becomes a seasonal, it becomes like a part, because I want there to be a Who Am I episode in every season, if that makes sense. I really hope that it works out, but let's see. And I just kind of want to give you an update about what I want and what I aspire for this podcast to become in the season 2. In season 2, I'm hoping to make Alt With Layla, the podcast, a video, at least on YouTube. You will find it as a video, so you can watch me yap. But on other platforms, it's going to be an audio, because after all, it is a podcast. And also the other thing that I wanted to say was, I don't know what it will be like on Substack. I don't know if I can upload videos on Substack. I'll have to check that. But yeah. And I hope that I'll be collaborating with more local designers and artists and like people in this field, in the media field, as I, start doing videos for the podcast and everything. So that is my hopes and my dreams, and also continue with the blog, weekly blog. So there's a lot in the works and a lot for me to do, but it's been really great. I'm not gonna lie, doing this weekly has been really challenging, but not it's not a bad challenge. It's a gift that I am giving myself, the gift of expression and like consistent expression, if you will, because I think that I know this will pay off for me. Like, no offense, but I'm doing this for me. And I think that because, as I always say, or I am recently or of late, or yeah, I usually say this, like the love that I have for people is the love that I have for myself overflowing, because one does not overflow from an empty cup. One cannot love from if I have no love to give. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, I would like to get into who am I? And I kind of want to cover the highlights of the season for myself. Yes, this is going to be so fun. I want to talk about the highlights of the podcast episodes and some of the highlights of my blog posts. If you haven't read them, then this is a great time to kind of have a sneak peek of them. So yeah, let's get into it. But first, I want to talk about how important it is to ask this question yourself, to ask yourself this question on a regular basis. Who am I? Who are you, really? Because a lot of the times, so I'm going to start, you know what I'm going to start with? It feels good to start with. I'm going to start with the last blog post I had, which the title is, Can You Keep Yourself Safe, or Do You Need Adult Supervision? Yeah. So one of the things I usually on my blog posts, I talk about 3 points Sometimes they're related, sometimes they're not. Like, I would like them to be related, but I can't really be bothered at this time. So one of the things that I want to talk about is identity crisis, because that was in my blog post. That's one of the things that I talked about. But I think it's very fitting for this to talk about it in this episode. I'm really, if you have read any of my blog posts, you'll know that I'm a big fan of finding out the etymology of words, or like how the words came about and what they mean originally in their origin. And so identity comes from the word from the Latin word idem, meaning the same, or basically being identical. So I'm just going to read a little bit from my blog post. It says, when I first found out about that, I was like, of course, that makes sense. That's why we keep having identity crisis. Because you know why? I think ultimately, when you don't know who you are, when you don't know who you are, or you've never bothered to ask yourself those questions, we live in a world where sourcing your identity externally is promoted and encouraged, you know? So we end up seeking identity and meaning or identification in external things and external labels. For instance, in my blog post, I talk about like, okay, so this car is great. Everybody knows it's great. You don't have to do anything to convince anyone that this car is great, because it's a known thing. And then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and get the car. You get the car, and then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and drive the car. And then by you owning the car and driving the car, you take on the identity of the car. You're like, am I great? And that happens with a lot of other things. It could be the big house that you own or the small house that you have. It could be your job title. It could be literally, you name it, anything that is external, that has a definition, a consensus about what it means. And then you take that identity and bam, you become that. But inevitably, as everything that we can touch and hold, anything that is physical is impermanent. They are fading, they are fleeting. And so these external identities are also fleeting. And then once we no longer have that role or career or car or house or friend group or whatever, then we go back to square one, which is, who the fuck am I? Yeah. Still, you get into an identity crisis because you had made yourself identical with the external things, and then the external things disappear, and then you're like, where do I go from here? It's a really huge loss that we experience, because as far as we are concerned, it's an identity. As far as we are concerned, that is who we are, and that is the mirror, that is how we see ourselves. And so even though it might seem, oh, it's pathetic, or it might seem very obvious, but it's not. It's none of those things. It's actually it's as real as it can get, because it's still a death. It's a death. It may not be a physical death, but it's a death of an identity. It's a death of a mask that we aren't wearing, that we have been wearing. So the grieving process needs to take place, and it will take place whether you like it or not, actually. So again, it's very important to ask yourself, who am I? And if I have nothing and no one, who am I? If I have everything and I have everyone, who am I? And what are the differences in those definitions that we have? And when we talk about who you want to become, right? I think it's important to also figure out who you want to become is not something that is also connected to external identification. Because who you want to become versus what you want to have are two different things. And let the record show that they are two different things, because that is usually how we end up in an identity crisis, if you ask me. And for me personally, I have talked about in my previous podcast episodes, I can even like when I talked about I quit and I won, that's when I talk about the journey that I've had in university and how it helped me quit. And one of the things that I mentioned was that I was a software engineer since third grade. Yeah. when I first got my PC, I was ecstatic. I was obsessed. I was like, yeah, I need this. And you know what? Like, what I really love about computers is that they just don't misunderstand me. They're not, there's no bias. You know what I mean? If there's a communication issue and the program's not programming as it needs, it's my fault, you know? It's always my communication. And it just that's what I love about it. Anyway, and I've mentioned that I think in that episode. But yeah, I I I had already taken on the identity of being a software engineer since I was in third grade. So for me to shake off that identity in order to quit school, I don't know which was harder, to choose my own self, my own path, or to get rid of that identity. To be honest with you, to be so for real with you, I think the harder part was not being a software engineer anymore. Like, wow, there was so much narrative. There were so many stories, that's so many belief systems that revolved around me being a software engineer, that that if that went, then every other idea of who I thought I was went. And that was giving identity crisis big time. Not only did I have a quarter life crisis, I also had an identity crisis, all in a matter of 3 years. That's pretty impressive, not gonna lie. And another identity, or who am I ness, or the question, an answer to that question is being, but in my first episode when I talk about being born a feminist. Now feminism is not Afrofeminism. The thing with the title is like, yes, it helps me identify and categorize who I am, but at the end of the day, label or not, this is what I do. You know what I mean? The labels only serve purpose in terms of identification and categorization, but what I do never changes. So that's what being born a feminist is something I am, you know? And that identity is not, okay, let's talk about it. It's not a skill set, you know, it's not a skill set. It's not a possession. It's how my being manifests in this world, you know? So I can never not be that. I can never not be sensitive to inequalities or to human rights issues. That is just who I am. You know what I mean? So there's a way of life, right? And there's a way of life, right? And it becomes your way of life. And it becomes who you are, because who you are is depicted in your way of life and the way that you live every single day. Yeah. So it's important to understand those identifications. Like, that's what I do, and the label happened to be put on me, and the label exists, sure. But if the label doesn't exist, do I stop doing the things that I do? No, I won't. And being a Black child, in that episode, that's the second episode. In that episode, I talk about, the thing is, like, I talk about how I didn't even know I was Black until I went abroad. And again, identities are put on you to mostly limit you and to put you in a box, so it becomes easier for other people to sort you out, you know? And even though, like, again, my Blackness is who I am at the end of the day. Because why is it who I am? Let's talk. Because every day I move as that. Every day, and being a woman as well, right? Every day the world receives me like that. And so the world treats me accordingly. And therefore, because of the way, it doesn't matter if the world chooses to identify me and put me in a category as such, right? And then I have those experiences. I have a Black woman's experience living in Africa. So those challenges, I cannot escape those challenges or any type of predicament that comes with being that person, you know? And because of the experiences that I have as that person, then my life is completely altered by that experience. And who I am is altered. How I speak is altered. How I show up into the world is altered. you know? Yeah. And it's identity comes from how the world receives you and how you should decide to show up in the world. But then again, how they're related, right? You can't just be treated like shit all the time and show up like a great person, you know? Yes, you can, but it's not easy. You know, you have to overcome yourself and rise above it all. So those are two very related, unfortunately. And also sometimes, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's rather unfortunate that they're related because despite who you want to be, the world makes you out to be a certain way. And then that dictates the quality of your life and the experiences that you have. So yeah. And then I'm just kind of going through the episodes and like kind of recapping. A is for agency. And it's the third episode, and that is that. I think I will be talking about A's for agency, but also for authority in the next season, because I think authority as a life coach as well, that's really what I want to focus on. I want to focus on confidence, authority, and agency. Those are the things that I would like to work on. Self-confidence and actually self-actualization is better. Yeah. So in Ace for Agency, I talk about, because who you are, again, I think it's important to know who you are in order to have agency. And then when you have agency, you can explore more of who you are, you know, because agency gives you the right to express who you are. And if you have agency, then that's why agency is so key. And that's why A is not for fucking apples. It's for agency. Because I think that agency is empowering. When you have agency, when you can speak on things, when you can decide on things, and you choose how you want to live your life, or how you want to show up in the world, or how your morning routine is, you know, what you want to eat, what you don't want to eat, and all that. I think that's also you curating who you are, or learning about who you are. And I think that's very, very important. And then I've already covered it. I quit and I won. That is, I think it's a very powerful episode. And I quit and I won also talks about really my struggle to choose myself, and also identifying what the world wants me to be and who I want to be. It was a really tough time, and obviously it's followed by a quarter life crisis. And a quarter life crisis, basically, I've been scammed type of energy, because you put a lot of you've done everything right, you've checked all the boxes, and then it's still not clicking. It's still not. It's not doing it. It's not clicking. It's not. Life is not giving you what they said it's supposed to give. You know, and that's why I quit that life, and that's why I quit and I won, and then the quarter life crisis are very much go hand in hand. It's definitely worth a listen. And I also want to talk about a quarter life crisis is also, it is, I think, inevitably not a who am I, but why the hell am I here question. And when you ask why the hell am I here, you need to also explore who you are, so you can know what you can provide this world, what you can do in this world, what your skill sets are, how you want to express yourself as well. Because how aligned you are with who you are, what you do, and how you show up in the world is how it's aligned to who you truly are, or who you believe you are. So that is what really happened in my quarter life crisis. I was like, this again, it's not giving what it's supposed to give. And am I living my own life? Is this my life? Are my disappointments even mine? This is one of the things that I said in my notes, because most of the time we live our lives according to how other people see fit for us, and then even our losses aren't ours. Even our disappointments aren't ours. You know what I mean? Because it ain't your life you're living, sadly. And that's one of the realizations that I had on my journey to stop people pleasing, which will be also episodes for season 2. Season 2 is gonna be so good. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Yeah, so I realized that, like, in my journey of people pleasing, or like recovering from people pleasing, I realized that, because that also helped me realize the level of introvertedness, the level of introvert that I am. I thought I was an extrovert, but alas, I'm not. And it made me realize that what I consider losses or disappointments are actually not at all that. They're not mine. They're not mine. They're the losses of a person who's desperate for affection and desperate for validation and for love and support. And since because it's a coping mechanism, right? People pleasing. And when I stopped the need to cope, I stopped becoming that person. I no longer was that person. And what my disappointments they were not mine to bear. I'm not even sad that I'm no longer wanting to socialize with people in the way that I used to. You know what I mean? Because I'm not that person. And it was just, again, like I said earlier, a mask. Yeah. And I really would love, 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 love to explore neurodivergence, autism, and ADHD in the next season or the season after that, because I think this is also one of the things that allow us to know who we are better and explore the depths of who we are and how our brain works and how we deal with the stimulus that is the world, you know? Yeah. In regards to who am I want to talk about my blog post, the first blog post I ever did, because the whole concept of the blog post showing up is because I lost my phone's second week of September, and I couldn't record, and I didn't have backlog, so I wrote a blog post, and I've been meaning to read, but I've already shared that with you in the last few episodes, I think. So, and the first blog post, I think I lost my innocence, and I'll be damned if I don't get it back. I talk about how I don't want to be known, and I want, like, this one, I think the more you know who you are, and the more you're sure of who you are and who you want to be and what you stand for and what your values are, the less you want to be known or understood. That craving kind of disappears, at least for me, because who I am becomes sacred to me, and therefore is shared with people who are safe spaces, who will value who I am and cherish it and hold it dear to their hearts, who will not discard it and validate it, so over time, I think the people who I share to has decreased, like, so wildly, because my vulnerability, I realized, is a precious, precious gift, and it needs to be treated as such. And I also treat other people's vulnerability as such too, and it becomes such a meaningful exchange. But throwing your vulnerability around hoping that someone sympathizes with it, or gone are the days. I'll just say that, gone are the days. And then the other one I mentioned is I don't want to be known within a context. Actually, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. Or maybe I do. So basically what I want to say in this is that I like people to not know anything about me and then meet me. And it's really fun for me. I think that's also why I like traveling, because I don't have any context. People don't have a context of what it is to be Ethiopian, or like, I think, because I also I find it refreshing that I don't have any context when I meet someone from somewhere else. I think it's such the blankest slate that anybody can start off from. And I like the no context bit, because the minute people have context, they immediately they create a me in their heads that is not me at all. And then now I'm fighting with her, because they're like, why are you not like this? Why are you? Because the girl in my head, and I'm like, who is the girl in your head? It's definitely not me. Definitely not me. And yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, and I think that you should really go read An Innocence is Lost. Yeah. But I will share a quote from it. An article deduced that our innocent self is our genuine self, and due to traumas and betrayals we experience, we put our innocent self in the back as a form of protection. And a shadow of that comes forward to take its place, giving us a constant feeling of loss. So again, I think this does tie into who am I, because who I am is also my innocent self, right? Your true self, your inner child, if you will. And when that is hidden, we always feel like we're not as in touch, or we're not as joyous as you used to be, or it's like you feel the loss of self, right? And sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, it's really hard to get back. And it's a lot of work, and it takes commitment. That's all. It takes commitment to get yourself back. But nothing is lost. So that's good too. And the latest blog post, I talk about who we are is also who I am is also my body. I may not be all of my body, like I'm not just my body, but who I am lives in my body at least. And I talk about why people are so adamant on neglecting their bodies when it's so vital. People be complaining about, oh my God, this hurts, that hurts, yada, yada. And they don't even bother spending 10 minutes on their bodies a day. I say this, we don't take care of our bodies because we hate our bodies. We take care of our bodies because we love our bodies. And I think that it's important to take time out of your day to take care of your body, because anything needs to be used, needs to like be supported and maintained to work, right? So how the hell do you get off complaining about your back when you haven't done any damn thing for it? And I understand, like I said in my blog post, like space is a privilege, but I'm really talking to those people who do have those access, who do have those resources, but have yet to utilize it. What do you do for your body? Why don't you really think about it? Because if you don't prioritize your body and your well-being, there was this TikTok video that I saw. She said, people think they're just going to grow old and they just die. She's like, nah, that's not how it happens. You're going to grow old and then you're going to fall sick. And then when you fall sick, you're going to be sick for like a decade, decreasing your quality of life. And then you're going to die. Yeah. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. So everything you don't, and another quote by Sadhguru is, you don't stop exercising because you grow old. You grow old because you stop exercising. So please, take some time to take care of your body now before it's too late. Period. Yeah. And I urge you to go follow my Substack and check out my blog posts. I think that you'll find them very interesting. And I think I want to wrap this episode up with a poem as per usual. So let's get into it. Okay, I think this is a really fun poem that I want to share with you. So here goes. Actually, this is a poem from, you can also follow 3030. It's a Substack that I have, my poetry Substack, that it comes alive every April of every year, because I do April 3030 challenge, and it's a poem for every day. And this one was 2024's 20th of April poem. It's called Distortion. I don't know where this is going. I am not confused. Things are pretty clear. I am amused. I am not lost, yet unsure about the past. The future casts, the present holds. I am the clown in all my shows. End scene. And because Alt With Lella serves as a prompt to the listener, I really would love for you to write, to say like, to answer, who are you in one sentence? And I would really, really love to know who my listeners are and who they think that they are, because that would really be great for me, actually. Please let me know who you are in one sentence, or even less, actually, because you know who I am, right? So let's open up the channels of conversation and communication. Yeah, and I think that's enough yapping for the 7th episode of Alt With Lella, Who Am I? If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. You can also find Alt With Lella on Instagram and TikTok that's Alt With Lella. And if you're interested, you can find my personal account at A Lifetime with Layla on both of these platforms. While you're at it, you can check out my website, altwithlayla.com, to access the services I provide. Thank you for listening, and goodbye until next time.